You are now listening to the podcast for geeks and the stuff they love, where each week we'll talk about everything from anime to movies, games, and prop collecting with the people who create and love it. I'm Jeromy.
I'm Vinz.
And I'm Dave, probably better known as Toypolloi.
And this is your Geek Fix. We're very lucky today. We have an additional... I guess we've had a lot of different people on the show so far, but at the same time, there's actually three of us today again, and we have a special guest today, Dave, Mr. Toypolloi. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you do and about your channel.
Well, most people I think will know me as Toypolloi. I'm the guy on YouTube who fixes sort of all sorts of vintage toys. Taking them apart, trying to mend what other people think can't be mended, and generally giving old toys a new lease of life.
You were repairing. I wrote you this in the email that he actually repaired a toy that I had as a kid. I completely forgot about it too. It was a Dungeons and Dragons figure. I think it came with a castle too, and you were repairing some things on it. Is it usually the same? Like, is it usually things that people tell you that they consistently have to fix, or things that commonly break, or do you just get a toy and whatever's wrong with it, you fix it, kind of thing?
It's a bit of everything. I get a lot of requests. People obviously watch my channel, and then they'll message me saying, have you seen this toy? Like, this thing always breaks, and I'll look at those. But often it's just toys I had as a kid that I still have in my collection that have been broken for countless years that I just like to repair. But really, I'll have a go at anything. It's a shame to see toys broken. So I just like having a go. And my sort of rule has always been, if it's broken, you can't do anything worse to it than,
Right.
if you don't fix it, you've not broken anything anymore. It's, you've not lost anything. So I will have a go at fixing anything. But yeah, certainly a lot of people do. I get a lot of requests, a lot of Star Wars requests, a lot of like Transformers and, things that everybody wants to collect. People will message me about them. I got a message today, someone asking me a very specific repair on a Star Wars thing. So, it's day in, day out, people will ask for stuff to be fixed and for me to show how it is fixed.
Vinz actually brought you up in our very first episode. We were talking Star Wars, and that's and your name came up because Vinz has actually done quite a bit of that sort of thing himself in his home, and actually, do you want to bring up is it your sisters, or who is it that has a special donation situation set up?
It's my sister-in-law, and I contacted them to tell them that they were mentioned in the podcast, but. It's more for smaller children, and also the repairs that are being done, like the 3D printed stuff. It's not, it won't hold up against a 5-year-old. So they were like, it's probably for collectors and stuff like that. So if you can find someone who's a big Star Wars fan, give it to them. So now I'm stuck with 9 Y-wings in several
awesome.
several areas.
Nothing wrong with having 9 Y-wings. I've got piles of broken things in my garage, all Star Wars stuff. I never say no. If someone offered me a broken toy, I never say no to it. It just builds up. It's an addiction, I think.
Yeah. Well, you actually got me into it, Dave. So that's why I mentioned you, because I used to watch like these Matchbox Redline restoration stuff, and then you got suggested, and I was like, hey, I have some old stuff that was broken a while back, like due to some friends coming over breaking it, or myself, and your videos really showed me that it was possible with a little care and also a little bit of letting go, that stuff is already broken and you can fix it. You can fix stuff really nicely, and the skill that you have developed is really impressive also. I mean, the way you can color match paint, I still can't do it.
Yeah,
you just casually have
that's something a lot of people ask me, how do I do that? And honestly, I don't no, it's not something I could tell people how to do. You just have to see it. I think, I've been to art college and stuff like that. That my background is quite arty. So I guess I was taught that stuff properly at one point. I can't remember how I was taught it, but it just becomes second nature to look at something and go, well, that's a bit blue, but you also need to add a little bit of green to it and a little bit of red, and you'll get the color that you want. But it's something, I wouldn't know how to teach people how to do that. So color matching is a is an art, certainly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Learning by doing.
We used to have a tool for trying to match colors, and it works okay to a certain level. But with the stuff like what you make, that gloss, if there's any gloss to it, even those electronic ways of measuring colors just don't work because you get too much of that reflection from it.
Yeah, it's hard as well because people, especially like with Star Wars figures, and everyone says, "Oh, what is the color for, say, Bespin Luke's hair or Han Solo's hair?" And the answer is there is no color. Every single figure is slightly different because these figures, as we all know, are 40 odd years old. They've all degraded or discolored in some way. There's no 100% match for any figure. So whatever figure you get, you've got to do a little bit of mixing. So I can never tell someone, oh, it's this color brown, because it never is that color brown. It's that color brown with a little bit of this, depending on where your figure has been stored or what factory made it, or it's always, it's a bit of guesswork in all of this stuff, but that's the fun of fixing toys. I don't think you can get bored of fixing toys because every time you do something, even if you fixed it 10 times before, it'll be slightly different to the one that you fixed before. There'll be some other issue to it.
How is your collection pretty broad then, of what you have, or do you? What happens with your stuff after you're done fixing it or making it?
My collection is very broad. It started off when I first, I've been collecting almost 30 years now, I'd say I've been collecting. And I started off collecting the things I really liked, like Star Wars and Transformers, and I wanted to sort of get those. And now, after all these years, there's lots of little bits in my collections, things that I remember having as a kid, just odd items. And I'll buy a few, and sometimes I'll get the things I never had as a kid but wanted. And so my collection is just a bit of everything. Like I've got lots of Action Man toys now, and I never intended to collect Action Man, but a friend of mine gave me 2 broken ones to fix up, and I fixed them up, and then sort of it reminded me how much I loved having them as a kid. So I sort of fixed them up, got uniforms for them, and now I'm sort of over 40 of them. It just sort of happens. And like recently, someone sent me some Kenner Mask toys because they wanted me to do some sort of work on masks. I'd never had any mask toys, and now I've got a whole pile of them here. Just because once you get into them, and once you start sort of playing with them and realizing how interesting they are and actually how clever the mechanisms inside them are, I've just sort of I've got more of them. So my collection is eclectic, I think would be how I would describe it. And what do I do with it all? Well, I'm sitting in a very, very filled room of my collection, and I'm surrounded by broken toys. I know this is a podcast, so you can't see it, but my room is, and actually, my room is a mess. It's always a mess because I'm filming constantly, so I'm surrounded by toys. The stuff I really like, I keep, and other bits I tend to give away to my friends who if someone comes around and sees something and like, oh, I really like that. If it's not something I'm massively sort of connected to, I'll give it away, or I'll pass it on to someone who is more interested in it than me.
Yeah. Do you have other ways that you get your stuff? I mean, as far as like, do you go to any conferences or boots? What do they call it out there
in the UK? Car boot sales. Yeah, I don't. I don't often go to car boots. I go to toy fairs and flea markets. There's a toy fair relatively near me on the. I'd say 5 or 6 times a year it's on, so I go there quite regularly. There are flea markets as well that I find stuff at. I still find them in charity shops and things. You still find toys and things in charity shops. I actually found 2 vintage Action Men in a charity shop a couple of weeks ago. You still find stuff. And then a lot of people send me things in now, I think because they enjoy seeing the process of getting stuff fixed. People will look out for toys for me and then just send me bits of broken things that they find, thinking that they'll be interesting for projects, and often they are. I've got boxes of stuff here of what people have sent me, and then I have a friend who I've had for a few years now, a good few years actually, Lawrence, who is a toy trader. He's called Toy Planet UK on Facebook, and he sells quite good quality toys, and anything that's broken that he doesn't think he can sell, he puts in a box. And every sort of it's happened a couple of times now. Every sort of 6 months, he goes, "I've got a box of stuff for you," and he'll just give me a huge cardboard box of broken toys that he can't sell, that are sort of beyond what he can sell. So I've got 4 big boxes in the garage just of broken toys that he doesn't think are sellable. So I've got it seems to have an endless supply of projects and broken bits.
Yeah, here in the U.S. We have Goodwill, and I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. They're basically like thrift shops that are tied to some nonprofit organization, so there's a lot of stuff that's been donated and things, and guaranteed you'll find a lot of toys in there, and none of them are complete. It's a lot of broken stuff that probably people would pass up, but they have value actually to them, and they're very collectible. But
I think that's certainly like when I started doing the channel, which is like Toypolloi is now almost 9 years old, so I've been doing it quite a long time.
Wow.
I think most people didn't see much value in broken toys, and I think it's not just my fault that this has happened, but I'm there because there are other people out there who do it. But I think I've certainly encouraged more people to see that a broken toy can be more than a broken toy, and it's got some use to it. So I think. Certainly when I started, you could buy broken toys very cheaply because no one wanted them. Now it's a lot harder because people see actually with a little bit of time and effort, you can make something quite nice. So I think that's a positive, although it may seem as a negative because it makes it's harder for people to get this stuff. I think it's a good thing because it just means that more of this stuff is not being thrown away and discarded. That people are going, oh, right, well, that may be broken, but if I do this, I can fix it,
Yeah. I got an email a couple of weeks ago from Vinz, and he asked me if I could go to here in the U.S. We have Dollar Tree, which used to be actually literally $1. Like everything was exactly $1. They raised it to try and compensate for things, but at the same time they have a series. What is it called?
Final Faction, something I believe.
Yeah, that's it. So they they have several there, but I don't think I've ever heard or seen anything about it before you wrote to me. And then I actually went on if you go to the Dollar Tree website, they even have episodes of the show, which I hadn't, which was actually somewhat entertaining. It's kind of funny, but entertaining stuff. But never heard about it before. But here, the value of it here, like you said, for about $1, has a greater value out like where Vinz is.
So a guy called Bill actually sent me some recently. He'd messaged me about toy shops and stuff like that, and then he sent me a package which was filled with those Final Faction figures and a few other bits and bobs. So I'd never seen them before, but I now have a couple here in my collection. Yeah. They're pretty good. They're very much like along the lines of sort of cheap G.I. Joes, really, sort of sci-fi based cheap G.I. Joes.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
No, I was quite impressed with the quality of them, considering they're so cheap. But then, have you seen the Transformers and the Masters of the Universe? Sort of here in the UK, we have Pound stores. So there's a shop called Poundland that sells them. Yeah, they're really nice as well. Really nice, like sculpts. They don't do anything. They're not posable, but they're really nice figures. And for £1, but you just have to have them.
Yeah. Well, it used to be if you went to, especially for the Star Wars stuff. Star Wars in Japan was not a big deal. Like, I don't even know that it's that big of a thing now, but, for the longest time, if you went to Japan, you could find really great figures that would be worth a lot here, going for next to nothing, because it's just not something that people were into over there. So
I think now it's certainly, when I've been going to Japan, I'm going to say probably for more than 15 years now, something like that. And the very first few times that I went, I picked up quite a lot of vintage Japanese Star Wars stuff for very cheap, like carded, I think the company's called Tsukuda, carded Star Wars figures with the Tsukuda stickers on them for like 10 or 15 pounds for a carded figure. So that's about $20, I would say. And now I don't think you wouldn't be able to buy a figure like that for that much. In fact, when I go to Japan, I take Star Wars stuff to trade because I know vintage Star Wars stuff is much sought after there. So even loose figures and ships and stuff, I will take them with me because I know that there's a much bigger market for it.
Oh yeah. You just never know. You kind of have to act when the opportunity is there. I guess is the best way to put it. What is there any standard, like, I know with some of the builds and things that I do, probably Vince could say the same thing, is there are some things that I always use, certain tools, certain products that I continually will use across pretty much everything. Are there certain go-tos that you feel like are like the number one tool or fix that you can think of?
There's a lot that I use regularly. Lego, if you watch my channel, the amount of Lego that I cut up and ruin, as some people say, is an incredibly useful resource. And I think when I first sort of cottoned on to how useful it was, it changed my life. Previously, I'd been using odd bits of plastic and things that I'd find. And then all of a sudden, I think I was fixing a biker scout and the head had broken off it. And I was sort of looking around. And I thought, well, actually, Lego would be good for that. And I fixed that. And ever since that fix, now, whatever I'm doing, the first thing I look for is there a bit of Lego that's about the same shape as what I need to repair? And like 9 times out of 10, there will be something there that will do the job. So I think that's probably my go-to. I'm going to call it a tool because it is essentially a tool now that I always go to. In fact, I've just ordered a load of pieces for another Star Wars repair video that I'm going to film in a few weeks because I was looking at the thing that was missing. I don't want to say what figure it is because everyone will go out and buy this figure before I get to film. But I was looking at this figure and I thought, I know what looks like that. And I went on. There's a website called Bricklink that lists every single Lego piece that's ever been made, and I spend hours browsing through that until I see something. Oh well, that's the bit I need, and I just order loads of them. And then so, Lego, and then. Like more recently, plastic weld and styrene sheet. Like because I make a lot of stuff from scratch, more than I used to. Like a lot of people.
Is there a certain thickness that you're getting, or
a bit of everything? One millimeter, 2 millimeter, and some 1.5 millimeter is thick sheets, and I can do pretty much all that I need. That. I use an awful lot. I get a lot of people saying to me, "Why don't I 3D print parts?" And for me, that's boring because it's just you model something in a computer and then you print it out, and it makes it sort of it looks obviously the part will be perfect, but I like the practical way of making something and having to physically make it and work out how you're going to put it together and how you're going to shape it. And I also think that. My channel, certainly for the videos I make on my channel, I want everybody to feel they can have a go at reproducing what I'm doing. And I think if you have a 3D printer, that cuts out 95% of the people who watch my channel. I don't think that many people have 3D printers. Whereas everybody can buy a piece of styrene and everybody can get some plastic weld and cut it up and have a go at making something. It just, for me, it's far more enjoyable to make it, even if the end result doesn't look perfect. The process of getting there is a very enjoyable process.
It's actually quite hard to get plastic weld here in the Netherlands, to be honest.
Oh really?
Have to import it from the UK.
Oh really? Here I can walk. There's a model shop in the sort of town near me, and I can go in there and they just have it on the shelf, and I always buy it from them. So I assumed it was like a worldwide. Solvent.
Nope. Well, I actually looked up there is some mention of a solvent like methyl whatever on the little thing. So I ordered that, but it didn't melt or weld at all. So I now have like 3 liters full of that stuff because it was cheaper than a small bottle, but it doesn't work. So it's not the active compound at least. I have to import it from the UK.
I don't know what's in it. I've never actually looked. I've had a few people saying that I shouldn't put it on my skin. I've got some here in front of me. This is the stuff I use. EMA Model Supplies plastic weld. It's sort of the most common one here in the UK. A few people have said to me,
it's great
don't put it on your hands and that because it's sort of nasty. It certainly says don't swallow it, which I definitely wouldn't recommend. But I wouldn't recommend swallowing much of the stuff that we use for fixing toys. But I just
and also the lighter fluid that you use.
Lighter.
It worked great. I mean.
Lighter fluid. That's an art school trick. When I was at art school learning, how to draw and whatnot, when you'd finish doing a picture, any sort of scuff marks or marks on the piece of artwork that you were making, they would sell this stuff called clean art. And it was really expensive, but it came in a bottle much like lighter fluid. And after a while, I was sort of chatting to one of the teachers, saying, you just used to put a bit on a tissue and rub on whatever the mark was, and it would come off. And I said to the teacher, what is this stuff? And he goes, oh, don't buy that. It's just lighter fluid. So from then on, I stopped buying this expensive art supplies, clean art, and you just buy lighter fluid. And I've been using it now, like since college, on everything. I clean everything with it, and it's just a marvel. It just takes all sorts of greasy marks off, and as far as I'm aware, causes no damage to anything, apart from the fact you don't want a lit flame near it while you're working with it, but it evaporates so quickly. It's pretty safe.
Yeah, I saw a video from Deviant Olaf, who is a bit of a penetration expert for like physical stuff. He does lockpicking and all that kind of stuff. And he recently had a whole video series about how to get rid of those plastic armbands you get on festivals. And he did also one about the paper ones. And he found out that heptane was, I believe it's also in lighter fluid then, but the heptane stuff would actually be the best way to remove and reapply stickers and the like the if you remove the sticker and it says void, that kind of stuff. By getting a syringe with heptane in it, you can just push it under there and it just removes the sticker entirely. So I think there are some chemicals available that may be dangerous to use, but are very effective at removing stickers. But yeah, same thing with the lighter fluid. I used other stuff before and it didn't really work. And as you said, I had a big Triptychon toy that was totally destroyed sticker-wise, but apart from that, it was discolored, but looked okay. Just spent an afternoon with some lighter fluid and a screwdriver, just scratching the stuff off, and added repro labels, and it's back to new.
No, I think there are some things, certainly. I know the stuff that I've shown on my channel that now you see everybody use. Everybody uses the same thing, and I can't guarantee it's because of my channel, but I think I've had a big influence on what people use on their toys and how they repair them. So yeah, lighter fluid. I think you can probably link back to my early videos for sure.
Yeah. Do you have some of your original, like when you were a kid, toys?
Very few. I sold off when I was about 14 or 15. I'd got into computers and remote control cars, and so I sold off pretty much all of my childhood toys. I have a couple of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons figures. I have my original Zarak is my childhood one. I've got a couple of Star Wars figures and some Transformers, but pretty much everything else I sold. So that's what I've been trying to recollect all these years, is all the stuff that I ever had that I really loved having. And I'm still missing a few bits that I've never found that I had as a child. But yeah, in hindsight, I wish I hadn't done it, but I think everybody reaches an age that they've got other things that they're interested in, and yeah.
Oh yeah, I had one of those boxes up in the attic kind of thing that had a bunch of. I had the Millennium Falcon and a bunch of every Star Wars toy that I ever had, and things like that. And I think and eventually, of course, it went away. Now I kind of feel bad about that. It'd not only hold a high value, but
there's a couple of things that I had as a kid that I've still not been able to find that are now stupidly expensive, and I just think, oh, why did I get rid of that? One is actually a Dungeons and Dragons figure. There's a sort of second issue figure called Ogre King, the shield shooter Ogre King. He's a sort of bright green ogre with orange sort of armor and that. And I just can't. I've got a loose version of him without his armor, but if I want to find one with his armor, it's like hundreds of pounds. He's so rare, and I had this as a kid. And I loved it.
He's like really bright.
Yeah,
green.
He's sort of neon green. I know we're on a podcast. I can show you one while we're chatting. This is what he looks like. He is.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
The armor for this would set you back a few £100, and I think, oh, what? How foolish of me to get rid of this toy as a child. But how was I to know? 30 odd years later, I really still wanted that toy.
Right. I have a Indiana Jones from the first movie. I have the Indiana Jones that it had I guess it had somewhere between the karate chop and the fling for the whip action that was in the arm. And it still has that action even now after being buried 60 times in the dirt, because that's what you had to do. And then and he still moves all right, but of course, a lot of the paint's gone. So yeah, that'd be one that if I was to fix one up, that would probably be the one. Actually, I offered it to Dan Lanigan, and I never sent it.
I often get people like message me saying they've got a toy from their childhood, one that is really like beaten and play worn, and they want to fix it up. And actually, I quite often tend to say to people these days, don't leave that one as is. If it's a common figure, if it is a Star Wars figure, keep your one that's really beaten up, because that's got all of your history on it, and just get another one and fix that up to be really nice.
Yeah, that's true.
Because those memories, those scrapes, those bits of paint missing, bits of often it's like thumbs missing or whatever. That is your history in that figure,
right?
And that's why some of my childhood ones I would like to get back. Actually, because they have to be the original ones, because they've got to be beaten, and you can never recreate that if in something. I do actually tell people a lot of times, don't restore it now, just keep that one, get another one, because there's so many of them. Get another one and keep your one as is.
Of course, that was also the figure. It had a hard time standing up by itself, because I think that was at the point where they actually had some that had the 3-point articulation in the legs. And so,
is that the Kenner?
It went outward. Yeah, the Kenner one.
Is that the Kenner one? Yeah, they added knees to them, didn't they?
Yeah. But the problem was it didn't the way that he sat, his legs was here. Let me see if the legs would go outward like this, right? And so the problem with that is any vehicle or anything that you would put him on top of, except for a horse, it wouldn't fit. Like you can put him inside many of your other toys, because he just wasn't made for it. Everything else, had the legs that went straight out.
I've no idea why they did that. It's a bit like the larger vintage Star Wars figures like Darth Vader and Chewbacca, the big sort of 14-inch size ones.
Oh yeah,
those have the same sort of.
I had one.
Those have the same sort of legs. So when you sit them down, their legs are in such a sort of wide V shape. You can't. Yeah. I can sort of from a construction point of view, I can see why they did it, but as a toy, it just looks weird that they've got this massively wide stance of their legs. Very strange.
Yep, I had the Chewbacca and the Darth Vader of that one. Yeah, that's true.
With the Masters of the Universe also, I just bought a Dragon Walker a while back, actually because of one of your videos, Dave.
Yeah.
And I thought my son would like it. He's almost 2 now. He was super scared of it, so I leave it on the shelf now.
Was he scared because it's so noisy, that toy? When you put the batteries in?
Yes, and also it was noisy and it looked really weird because it's a weird toy to begin with. But also the way you can fit your He-Man in is also to bend his feet and just have a V shape where his legs stick out of the sides, and that's the only way you can get him to fit. But I had a choice between a fully working one and a not working one, so to say. And it was like a €20 difference between the two. And the trick you did with just, getting the dust off the motor by scraping it a couple of times, that did the trick. I mean, those things are built to last, but the motors, they tend to freeze. Same thing with the Kenner toys, with the Millennium Falcon and all the other ones. It's often that the toy just, the motor just stalls because it's a brush that gets dirty.
There's a lot of fixes that I show that are sort of universal fixes. Anything like that with an old motor in it. Generally, the electronics in them are simple. It is a battery and a motor. Yeah, and those motors just seize up. If you don't use them for 20 odd years or whatever, however long they've been aloft, they just seize up. So it's just a case of turning them. And, like the Dragon Walker that you've mentioned, those, because they're sealed toys and you can't get into them, you just have to sort of think slightly differently about how you're going to wind the motor. I think I'd watched another video, someone trying to fix it and saying that you couldn't do it, and then they'd broken it apart to get to the motor. And I just thought, that's crazy. You're destroying this toy to do something that you can do from the outside. It may look a bit vicious what you do by sort of running it along the track, but it's far less brutal than smashing the thing open to fix it. That's a good universal fix. If you've got something old with a motor in it, generally you've just got to run the motor a bit and getting your fingers on the axle so that you can spin it manually is about all you need to do. But He-Man toys are particularly noisy.
Yeah.
There's something, I don't know what it is. They are really noisy. I've just actually finished fixing.
Because they have the power.
They have the power, yeah.
They have the power.
Too much power. I've just finished fixing something, which is my video this week is fixing up the New Adventures of He-Man's Power Sword.
Oh wow!
And it's a collaboration project because I have to admit I gave up on the electronics on this. This is slightly more complicated than I used to. So it's a collaboration with another channel called Retro Tech Repair. He did manage to get it working, and he just sent it back to me. It is so annoying. It's so noisy and so annoying. It's every time you move it, the thing just makes a screeching noise. I almost wish I hadn't got him to repair it now.
I used to have a knockoff of that one, and it's I managed to find a picture of it like ages ago, but it was a red hilt, and it was a big green cross on it. And when I was 5 or 6 years old, I was He-Man, and I always brought that thing with me. But because I wore it in the back of my neck with my T-shirt, all my T-shirts were stretched out because of it. So I ran through T-shirts like really fast, and it went with me everywhere. But it also had that annoying, slashing, so to say, sound, and it just kept on triggering all the time.
I can see what they've tried to do with it. The noise is. I'm not going to say convincing, but it sort of sounds a bit like a slashing noise and a stabbing noise.
Is that the bell ching sound?
Yeah, but barely.
The ching,
yeah, it has. I think it does sort of It fires like a laser bolt sort of sound, and it has like an explosion with it. But it's a very early '80s sound chip in it, so it's not really. It's not really convincing, and it just has the power to annoy parents, I would say.
Which is great for the kid, but not for the parents.
Exactly. You do wonder a lot of times with these toys that they get given to a child with batteries, and then the batteries never get replaced, or it's like, oh no, sorry, we don't have any of those batteries, just to shut the thing up. It's irritating.
Do you ever, as far as getting into things, because you mentioned it earlier, I mean, like, the number of toys or things that I've tried to get into that they have the screws and you unscrew the screws, but on top of screwing together, they also glued it.
Yeah.
And so then you still have to, what's your number one for getting inside? Is it just heat, or what's your key to that?
It depends on the toy. Sometimes it's just a case of being brutal and hitting it with a hammer and hoping. And other times, being gentle. My video this week was fixing up the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons figures. Their legs, they're the early versions of those figures have T-bars in the legs to hold them together, and then an O-ring inside the body. Oh, yeah. And unlike G.I. Joe's, the legs are glued together, not screwed. So when the T-bar breaks, getting a new T-bar into it is, I've never seen anyone do it. In fact, I don't think I've seen anybody do it. And so to get into that, a bit of wiggling of a knife, you can split them in. On some of the figures, I got a very sharp chisel and hit them with a chisel to split them a bit. Sometimes you have to be a bit brutal, and it is scary, which is why I'll have to film before I film a video. I'll do a few tests just to make sure I can actually do what it is I want to do without like horrifically destroying something. I did a video. Must have been end of last year with Ram Man, Masters of the Universe Ram Man, because I was always very, very disappointed with how far Ram Man sprung when you launched him off the ground, and I'd always wanted to sort of supercharge one of those so it actually felt like it was a vicious weapon that you could you could fire it off. And so I bought a few of them. Luckily, Ram Man is a very cheap figure. No one seems to want to collect him, so you could buy him. I think I was sort of two or £3 a figure. So I just bought a load of them and took them into my garage and with a hammer just to see what would happen if I hit him on the side with a hammer. And luckily, the first one I did, it cracks up really nicely. So I was able to do what I wanted. There's no hard and fast rule for splitting a figure or something that's been glued together. It's trial and error, and there's a lot of error.
Yeah, I've had to just rebuild or fix some things that I just thought there had to be an easier way. Did you ever do, or do you have the Robbie the Robot toy?
No, from Lost in Space. No, I don't. I don't have that. Is it?
there's a great toy that's like $20, I think it was, that was sold through Walmart and was popular, and I think there was even one that it came with the Iron Giant. But the key was, yeah, if you want to go inside of it and if you want to upgrade it, make it look a little bit better. I tried from the center and worked my way out, and that was wrong. There was just the second that I got inside, I regretted taking it apart. And then by the time I had taken everything apart, I knew how I should have taken it apart, right? Which was going through the head, because there was a screw. I didn't see the screw originally that's hidden underneath something. I mean, do you have a lot of that happen where you go through a lot of hassle and hours, and then you're like, oh, I could have just taken that screw out?
Yeah, definitely. But that's why I say I do a lot of sort of research outside the videos I make, because there'll be ways that you don't see until you're sort of too far into it. It's sort of trial and error, really. I can't think, I was doing something fairly recently, and it took me ages to actually work out what was wrong with this thing. And then in the end, it was such a simple thing. It was like, how did I not spot that was the issue? Like all things, it's trial and error. As I say, but with a lot of error. That I probably should show more of the errors in the videos, the things that go wrong.
I was going to ask, do you ever show that?
Yeah, I do. I think I did. I had a video recently. Actually, another of the AD&D videos, because someone had sent me a Warduke with a head that had snapped off. I was like, oh, well, that's easy. I can fix the head back on. I'll just use a piece of Lego. The legs had come off. And so I was sort of putting the legs back on. And as I was tying up the bit of elastic, something else snapped inside it. And it's like, but I left it in the video because
I felt your pain when I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people were pleased to see that things don't always go right. Sometimes it's like you do something that you've done before and it should work, and then something else will break. I actually have one video on a vintage Action Man. I have these two Action Men, talking Action Men. There's two types of them. There's a sort of later one which has a record inside it. That I can fix no problem. I fixed loads of them. And then there's an earlier version which...
This is the 12-inch, right?
Yeah, they're 12-inch. They're like, in the US you'd call them G.I. Joes. In the UK we have them as Action Men.
Yeah.
The earlier talking Action Man has a sort of a little bit of cassette tape inside it, really. So when you pull this cord, it's a massive spring that sort of pulls. You're sort of adding friction into this spring, and then it winds this tape on. And I've never got one of those to work successfully. I did a video of me trying to fix it, and every time I did it and pulled this string, it just sort of disintegrated the whole mechanism. It just shattered into pieces. And I filmed the whole thing and just sort of thought, I'm going to put it up just to show how awful this thing is to fix. And I've still not fixed it. I have another one upstairs that someone sent me, just the sort of talking mechanism. And I just can't face looking at it because I know how much stress it was trying to get the last one to work. And I didn't get it to work. So I do show the failures because I actually think they're quite interesting for people to see how, even someone like me who does a lot of fixing, there are things that just flummox me, and I have no idea what I'm doing. So it's all part of the process.
It's all experimentation. Have you ever had a project where you actually got to talk to anyone, or where you've actually been able to meet somebody that was involved in making the item or that created the thing that it is that you're now repairing?
Funnily enough, one of the people who worked at Toypolloi on Action Man emails me quite regularly. He's one of the guys who worked on the Space Ranger line of Action Man, which is my favourite. So it's all the sort of their sort of answer to Star Wars. So they've all these sort of space outfits and things. And I've done quite a few videos fixing up the uniforms and fixing up the vehicles. And some of them wear these tabards, these sort of silver tabards with a printed pattern on the front of them. And he actually got in touch with me after I did a video on recreating those from scratch, because they're always damaged and always missing. And so I had a really nice chat with him and sort of learnt a bit more about the behind the scenes process that went into making these toys. But I think he's probably the only person that's got in touch who actually worked on these figures. I guess the thing is, a lot of these toys that I work on are very old, and probably there's a lot of people who aren't still around, or don't watch
like
YouTube.
my parents. Yeah, my parents had some of these toys, so I'm sure that some of the original people involved are probably long gone by now.
That's the thing, if you think I'm almost 50, so I'm the toys I would have been playing with in my youth would have been made by people who are probably at least in their 80s to late 80s now. So I don't think a lot of the stuff that I work on, there's going to be many people around. But there, I'm sure there are people who watch my videos. Actually, there was another guy who got in touch. Someone who worked on Thunder Punch He-Man. I can't remember his name, but the guy who did all this was the technical engineering on Thunder Punch He-Man emailed me and sent me diagrams of the inside of him so that I could see how he worked, like the original sort of.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So. Yeah, I can't remember his name now, but that was really interesting to see the original technical drawings for this figure and how it was put together.
Yeah, we'll make a nice poster out of it, I guess.
Yeah, it's nice to see that because I like. There are certain figures that everybody really likes, and I like He-Man and I like Skeletor. So anything to do with them, it's just sort of it's nice to see. And the Action Man stuff. He sent me some sort of early concepts of Action Man things that were never produced. So I've been able to see these sort of behind the scenes designs of stuff that never happened. So maybe one day what I should do is actually make versions of those prototypes.
Now you have a web page that has not only that they have links to some of your videos and things, but I mean you have some of your stickers in there. You have like all sorts of resources that are listed. Share your webpage with us. What's the how do the people find it?
Toypolloi.com is the website, and it's the sort of the offshoot of my YouTube channel. So anytime I do a project that needs like replacement stickers for a vehicle, I'll put the files that I use up there so that people can download them and then fix up their vehicles. Often they're recreations of the original stickers that people are, that are missing from the ships. Sometimes I'll take it down a different route and I will make custom stickers for a toy. If I see a toy and I just know that it could be made to look a whole lot better with, more stickers or different designs, I'll redesign things and then I put those files that people can get off my site. So normally for that sort of stuff, I charge a small amount, just so that I can make some money to then make more things. Running a website costs you money, so it's just useful to sort of get some money back. But I try and keep the prices really quite cheap because I don't want to make a fortune off this stuff. It's really the idea of Toypolloi is that people can copy what I do and fix their toys for nothing. So, but so Toypolloi is just I can't think how many files there are on there, but there are hundreds of files now, and some of them have been downloaded like crazy amounts of times. I'm currently working on a Toypolloi annual, which will be out later in the year. So there's a physical book of Toypolloi stuff, and I wrote an article for that about the website and the amount of times some files have been downloaded. And I think the Castle Grayskull sticker sheet has been downloaded. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but it's like 15,000 times. It's like a stupidly large number. And second to that is the stickers for the Millennium Falcon, which are sort of 12,000 times or something.
Oh yeah.
So there are obviously a lot of people out there fixing up toys. And finding the resources very useful.
I have one right there with your stickers on it.
Oh, really? Really? Yes.
I have one on the left of me, a Millennium Falcon that uses your stickers, and I also purchased the Red 5 stickers that you made for the X-wing.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people like the custom stickers. I think certainly with Star Wars toys, the stickers that Kenner made are very nice, but there's a lot that they missed on them that they could have. I personally feel that they could have done better. Like certainly. I did an insert for the AT-AT. When you open up the AT-AT, the inside of it's really boring. So I made a panel of that could stick inside the AT-AT to make it look more interesting.
Yeah. There
you
go. There you go.
Just like
that's
that.
The one.
Yeah.
That's the
just
one.
like what Vinz is showing there. So because I always thought it looked boring inside. So that was something and the same with Slave One. Slave One, when you open up Slave One, it's got all of this space inside it, but there's nothing in there. So it just needed a little bit of creativity, and you can make a panel that sits inside Slave One, and it looks far more interesting. So that's the sort of stuff that's up there. Is me trying to help people fix up their toys with stickers that were originally on the toys, and then being a bit creative and making new things from scratch that people can have a go with. And in the sort of instances of Star Wars figures, we all know that capes are often missing. Darth Vader would be missing his cape, or Luke Jedi will be missing his cape. So I make a lot of patterns for those. So if people are missing them, I've got videos on showing you how that you can remake the capes for. I don't think I've done all Star Wars figures, but I've done a lot of them.
Wow. And
then things like Kenner Superpowers toys and all sorts. I've made capes for a lot of things. So yeah, it's a general resource. If you want to fix up an old toy, at some point I hope to have covered it, and there'll be a file on the site that will help you, fix up your version of it.
Well, we want to thank you for coming out and spending some time with us. It was kind of exciting that you responded back in the time you did, because this was kind of a last second thing, but at the same time, you're pretty awesome, and we wanted to make sure too that people knew how to get a hold of you and that you're out there. And once again, that's toypolloi.com, or you go to the YouTube channel with the same name.
That's right. Yeah, basically, if you search for Toypolloi on Google, I will come up. I think I've sort of I've cornered the market of that name. So yeah, you'll find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube. I've got a website. I'm on TikTok now for some strange reason.
Okay.
I'm all over the place.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I now have a second YouTube channel called Toypolloi 2. So if you want even more Toypolloi content, then sign up to Toypolloi 2 as well.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out myself then.
Yeah, you'll find out how rich he really is making normal videos.
Yes. Toypolloi 2 is a bit more sort of behind the scenes of Toypolloi, because people often ask me questions about running YouTube channels, and also Photoshop questions. So I thought I'd split Toypolloi in two, so to speak, and the second channel will cover things that don't really fit on the main channel. So
kind of a making of the making of.
Yeah. I've done a few videos so far. One about people's overestimation of actually how much money you make from a YouTube video, because I think people assume that you're on YouTube, you must be really rich. So I've tried to explain that that's not the case. So I've done a video on that, and I've done a video on how to do some
rich in character, not so much in money.
Exactly. It's all about being nice to people. You're never going to get rich doing this stuff. It's not for the money. It's for the fun of it. So so Toypolloi 2 is a bit more behind the scenes, and lots of unboxing videos, because people like unboxing of toys. So
Awesome. Well, thank you again. If you've enjoyed this podcast and want more, stay tuned for that. But also check out our channel and join the community at YouTube that goes by the same name, Your Geek Fix. Also, check out Vinz on Twitter at MassiveDMG_, and on his YouTube channel, MassiveDMG. We'd like to thank you for being part of this podcast, and want you to be a part of this podcast as well. So please send in your questions and stories to yourgeekfix@gmail.com. In the meantime, this has been Your Geek Fix.